Hi, my name's Trystan Petrash, and before we get into it, I just want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to my newest monthly donor, Emma Rose. Your continued support, as well as from all of my monthly donors, is what helps make all of this possible. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone who supports this channel, and Happy New Year. Korean pork bone stew is a spicy, porky, potatoey bowl of goodness, and I'm honestly amazed at just how good it is every time I make it. It also happens to make the most amazing leftovers. Now, it's traditionally done with either neck or back bones, which do make a great stew. I, however, prefer using spare ribs. They still infuse the broth with a tremendous amount of flavor, but have the added benefit of containing a lot of meat. In the last episode, we made Chinese bonbon spare ribs, and we used the nice, even centerpieces. But then you're left with these scraggly ends, or tails, which are uneven and don't make for nice looking pieces, which is what makes them perfect for this stew. They generally don't contain any silver skin, so you don't have to worry about cleaning or trimming anything, which is nice. They mostly don't contain bones either, just cartilage. Using a sharp knife, cut the spare ribs into even-sized pieces. It doesn't matter how big or small, just be consistent. You will inevitably have to cut through some of the cartilage, but as long as you have a relatively sharp knife with a bit of weight to it, you'll have no problem. Toss the cut ribs into a bowl and season generously with kosher salt and freshly cracked black pepper. You're gonna really want to work the seasoning in, so take your time doing it. Now, as delicious as the pork is, for me, the star of the stew is undoubtedly the potatoes. I'm using russet since they have the best texture when braised and won't fall apart as easily, but you could use yellow or Yukon Gold as well. I'm normally one for leaving the skins on since they pack a lot of flavor, but in this case you're gonna want to peel them off. Without their skins, they'll absorb a lot more of the liquid from the stew, making them that much better and flavorful. You're also gonna want to keep them fairly big, otherwise they'll fall apart before the stew is done. Unless they're massive, cutting them into thirds is enough. The only other vegetable we need to prep is some green onions. They can also be cut into larger chunks, but reserve the tops from half of them to thinly slice for garnish. Next, we're going to make a sauce. In a small bowl, combine soy sauce, mirin, sweet cooking wine, sesame oil, freshly grated or minced garlic and ginger, doenjang, fermented soybean paste, you can sub miso if you can't get any, gochujang, fermented hot pepper paste, and gochugaru, hot pepper flakes. The last thing we'll be adding is perilla seeds, most commonly referred to as wild sesame seeds. They have a very nutty, almost peanutty flavor to them, but I'm not the biggest fan of their texture. So while most recipes just have cracked or slightly ground up seeds, I prefer to completely grind mine in a spice grinder. Transfer half to the bowl and reserve the other half for garnish, then give everything a good mix and set aside. As per Trystan Petrash policy, I recommend a cast iron Dutch oven. They maintain even heat and are far less likely to burn, so you don't need to baby your food. Heat over medium-high heat and add a good amount of cooking oil, like canola. Then once it's ripping hot, add the ribs. Traditionally, the bones are parboiled to remove impurities, but those same impurities can actually give the dish a lot of flavor if done properly. And the way to do that is to brown the f***ing shit out of them. Color equals flavor when it comes to food, and by browning the meat, you elevate its flavor profile. So do not rush this step. You want that meat deeply browned. Give it periodic stirs, but just let it do its thing until it starts to look like this. Then toss in the vegetables, followed by a small amount of stock. I'm using chicken stock, but pork, vegetable, or even dashi will work. The bottom of the pan will be covered in lots of tasty brown bits, or fond, and you're going to want to break them up before adding the remainder of the stock and the sauce. Transfer a few spoonfuls of the cooking liquid to the sauce to help thin it out, since it's basically a paste, then add it to the pot. Give everything a good stir, then bring it to a boil before lowering the temperature and allowing it to simmer for around 45 minutes to an hour. While the stew is doing its thing, we're gonna make a dipping sauce, because it's a scientific fact that dipping sauces make food taste better. Chinese hot mustard can be found at Asian markets, but you can also easily make your own by simply combining mustard powder and cold water, until it's the consistency of prepared yellow mustard. But plain yellow mustard will work fine too, so don't stress over it. To that, add soy sauce, rice vinegar, sugar, and horseradish. Then give everything a good stir and set aside in the fridge. The dip becomes similar to eating prime rib with horseradish sauce. Now the last thing we're going to do is make some rice. In this case, I'm going with Japanese short grain, but you can use whatever you'd like. You do you. The most important step to making any rice is to thoroughly rinse it off in cold water. Agitate it with your hands, drain, and repeat until the water runs clear. I'm using a rice to water ratio of 1 to 1.25, but as long as the water comes up just past your first knuckle, you'll be good. Bring to a boil over high heat and season with kosher salt, then cover and reduce to low for 20 minutes. Make a bit more than you'll need. By the time the rice is done, the potatoes and pork should both be tender and the liquid reduced by half. Because we season the ribs well and there's lots of salty soy sauce and peppery flavors, we won't need to season the stew any further. Then it's just a matter of busting out your fanciest bowl, filling it with this incredibly smelling stew, and topping it with the wild sesame seeds, thinly sliced green onion, and some toasted sesame seeds. Busting out another fancy bowl for the perfectly steamed rice, and fancy dip bowl for the, well, dip. And that's it. Gamjatang, Korean pork bone stew. Dipping those creamy potatoes into that spicy dip is a serious life-changing moment. It's also currently minus 30 here in Winnipeg, so it's just an all-around perfect winter dish. But the real magic happens the next day, because as great of a winter meal as it is, it makes an even better breakfast. When putting the leftovers away the night before, I separated the ribs from the liquid. We're gonna pick all of the meat from the bones, so it just saves us having to dig through more of a mess than it already is. Once the bones are mostly picked clean, roughly chop the meat with a knife. You don't have to go crazy here, just as long as most of it is no bigger than a navy bean. Place a frying pan over medium-high heat. I, of course, recommend cast iron. Hit it with a few good drizzles of cooking oil, and once it's nice and hot, toss in the chopped pork. Like we initially did with the stew, you want a decent amount of browning and crisping on the pork. A good fried rice should have a lot of texture to it. Then add the cold rice and mix to combine. We're going to continue to cook the rice for a few minutes before adding the sauce, essentially crisping each layer as we go for maximum flavor and texture. Just as it's starting to brown, stir in the sauce and season with butter, kosher salt, and freshly cracked black pepper. Flatten the rice out and poke some holes to allow steam to escape. Then reduce the heat to low and allow it to slowly crisp. At first, it may seem like it's going to be too wet, but as it cooks down, the sauce will form a crispy layer around the rice. This last step is completely optional, especially if you don't like joy and happiness in your life. But what separates a good fried rice from a "f me, that's a good fried rice" is of course a fried egg. Now at this point, you could bust out your fanciest bowl, but I just woke up and have not had enough coffee in me to care if it looks pretty. Plus, eating it right out of the pan keeps it nice and hot till the last bite. And that's it. Leftover pork bone stew, fried rice. For those of you who follow my channel, you know I'm not a breakfast person, but I will gladly eat fried rice each and every morning, and this is by far the best one. If you like my channel and are interested in supporting it while getting cool perks like access to my Discord server and its growing community, as well as shoutouts and bonus content, you can check out my Ko-fi page. I'll leave a link for that as well as the equipment I used in the description. And hey, if you've made it this far, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons? They're the simplest ways to help me make new content each and every Wednesday. Thanks for watching, and stay awesome. Your continued support, as well as all of my monthly donors, is what